There's a patch of the Atlantic Ocean, a place where compasses are said to go crazy, where massive ships and modern planes are just swallowed up. They vanish completely without a single trace. This, of course, is the legend of the Bermuda Triangle. Some people even call it the Devil's Triangle. And for what feels like forever, it's been at the heart of one of the planet's biggest, most enduring mysteries. So, what's the real story here? Is the Bermuda Triangle really some kind of paranormal hotspot, a vortex to another dimension? Or is there something much more logical going on that we've all been missing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out. Let's dive in and try to separate the hard facts from the wild fiction. We've all seen the pictures, right? You get this image in your head of total chaos, of deep, dark mystery. You picture planes spiraling down into a swirling vortex in the sea, or a giant ship just gone, pulled under by some invisible force. That's the sensational story that has totally captured our imagination, this idea of a haunted, cursed stretch of the ocean. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we first have to really understand the legend itself. It's a powerful story, and it's built on some really chilling and, at first glance, totally inexplicable events. So here's the thing. This area doesn't have any official borders. It's not like you'll find it on a nautical chart. But generally, people draw a line between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. And the story goes that inside this triangle, over 50 ships and 20 airplanes have just vanished. And not just vanished, but they disappeared under really bizarre circumstances, leaving behind absolutely nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, zero answers. The legend really got its start, really took hold, because of a few huge famous incidents. You've got the USS Cyclops back in 1918, a massive Navy cargo ship with over 300 people on board. It just, poof, disappeared. No SOS, no warning, nothing. Then fast forward to 1945, and you have Flight 19. This was 5 U.S. Navy bombers on a routine training mission. They all vanished. And get this, the rescue planes sent to find them vanished too. It's stories like these, plus a few others, like the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, that really built the whole foundation for this myth. And you know what happens when the facts seem to run out, right? Speculation takes over. And in this case, it led to some really, really extraordinary theories. Oh yeah, this is where the explanations went from strange to just wild. People started talking about everything. Alien abductions, UFOs swooping in, vortices to another dimension. Some even claimed it was ancient crystal technology from the lost city of Atlantis acting up. Time warps, space warps, giant sea monsters. Seriously, these are the kinds of theories that turned what was a maritime mystery into a full-blown paranormal freak show. But then, some investigators started to look at this from a totally different angle. They asked a really simple but powerful question. What if this mystery isn't something we found? What if it's something that was made up? And that one question, well, it changes everything. And this quote from a researcher named Larry Cush, this is really the turning point. Back in 1975, he put out a book that just systematically tore the whole legend apart. His big argument? The mystery of the Bermuda Triangle wasn't discovered out on the high seas. No, it was invented in the pages of books and magazines by writers who were way more interested in a sensational story than they were in the actual facts. So what Kushel did was actually go back and look at the original sources. We're talking old weather reports, official Navy and Coast Guard records, that kind of stuff. And what he found was incredible. You know those stories about ships disappearing in calm seas? Turns out many of them sank during massive, violent storms. Cases where they vanished without a trace? Actually, wreckage was found, but the storytellers just left that part out. He even found that some of the most famous incidents didn't even happen inside the triangle. Some happened in the Pacific Ocean. So this really is the crucial takeaway. When you ask official bodies, the experts, like NOAA, the U.S. Coast Guard, and even the huge insurance market Lloyd's of London, about how many truly mysterious or statistically weird incidents happen in the Bermuda Triangle, the number they come up with is 0. A big fat 0. There is absolutely no hard evidence that ships and planes disappear here any more often than they do in any other heavily traveled part of the ocean. Okay, so if it's not aliens and it's not the lost city of Atlantis, then what is going on? Well, science actually has some very compelling and very real answers. All right, first and foremost, you've got the weather. And this isn't just a little bit of that weather. This region is basically a highway for some of the most violent storms on Earth. The vast majority of Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes pass right through this area. And you have to remember, before we had all our modern forecasting technology, these monster storms could pop up with almost no warning. They were absolutely capable of swallowing ships whole and knocking planes out of the sky. And then there's a really fascinating threat coming from deep below the waves. The ocean floor in this area is packed with something called methane hydrates. Think of it like frozen pockets of natural gas. Now, if the seabed shifts, that gas can suddenly erupt, creating this massive plume of bubbles. Now, imagine your ship floating on top of that. The water around you suddenly becomes a frothy, airy mess. The water density just drops, you lose all buoyancy, and the ship could literally sink like a stone in minutes. Way too fast to even get an SOS call out. Plus, you have the Gulf Stream running right through here. This thing is basically a massive, powerful river inside the ocean. Its currents are incredibly fast. So if there is an accident, the Gulf Stream can grab the wreckage and sweep it away for miles, making it seem like it vanished into thin air. It can also easily push a ship or even a low-flying plane way off course, right into a storm or other dangers. So when you put all these pieces together, the whole supernatural mystery just kind of melts away. And the real culprits, they start to become pretty clear. See, it's not just one thing, it's really a deadly combination, a perfect storm of factors. First, you've got that violent weather we talked about, hurricanes, rogue waves, you name it. Second, you have real navigational challenges. The area has some of the deepest ocean trenches in the world, and it's also a place where compasses can get a little weird because of natural magnetic variations. For a pilot or captain who isn't prepared, that's a huge problem. And then you have the two things that are a factor in almost any accident, anywhere in the world. Plain old human error and simple equipment failure. In an environment this tough, there's just no margin for error. And this breakdown really paints the picture, doesn't it? The vast majority of these incidents come down to a mix of the environment, human mistakes, and mechanical problems. And that little slice for unconfirmed or exaggerated reports, that's key. The part that's truly unexplained becomes almost non-existent once you get rid of all the fictional stories that were used to build up the legend. So on one hand, you have the legend, right? These epic, supernatural images of aliens and time warps. But the reality? The reality is that nature itself is more than dramatic enough. The real dangers of this area aren't anything paranormal. They are the raw, powerful, and totally unforgiving forces of weather and the ocean. So what's the final verdict here? Well, the Bermuda Triangle is not some paranormal black hole on the map. It's just a very busy, high-traffic area of the ocean that happens to be prone to some really dangerous natural conditions. The legend? It was manufactured by people who cherry-picked the scariest stories, ignored inconvenient facts, and chose a good, sensational tale over the simple truth. But this leaves us with one last, kinda nagging question, doesn't it? If the science is so clear, if the mystery is pretty much solved, why does the legend refuse to go away? Why do we still love it so much? Maybe it's just because we, as people, are fascinated by the unknown. Let's be honest, a story about an alien tractor game is just a lot more exciting than a story about bad weather and poor navigation. And maybe that's the real mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Not what's happening out there in the ocean, but why so many of us still really want to believe.